Hello and welcome to this month's episode of Marketing Help Desk featuring the one and only Dave Plunkett from Collaboration Junkie. Glad you could join us, Dave.
Pleasure
How
to
are
be
you
here.
today? All right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Perfect.
looking forward to this.
Perfect. Before we get involved in anything else, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us along, you're either on YouTube or LinkedIn, possibly Facebook, probably Twitter. We're literally everywhere. Wherever you are, if you comment on the stream, we will see your comments, and we want lots of comments because this is an important topic that lots of people struggle with. We're here to answer questions live. We'd love to hear your viewpoints on things, your experience of things. So the most important thing, there's the whole point we do these live, is to get some interaction from you. Feel free to drop comments in the chat and we will shout out and say hello to everyone as well. So the focus of this month's Marketing Help Desk Live it's kind of a combination. If you've followed my LinkedIn account, you've probably seen me and Dave running Networking Unleashed streaming on a regular basis. So we regularly have sort of talking points where we'll cover various parts of networking, how to do networking better, more effectively, more productively. And we figured that this tied in really nicely with some of the things that we were seeing at Marketing Help Desk also. So when we get into this, we'll explain a little bit more about what I mean about that in general. But let's start things off in the right way. When we talk about referrals here, we're talking about not just networking in general, not just making introductions for business purposes, but also, as Phil's pointing out before the show, we get a lot of conversations around sales outreach and how many times it's appropriate to follow up or how long to wait and how often you should do that. And it all kind of ties in really nicely together. So before I get involved in any of that, in case you haven't met him yet, I'm going to hand over to Dave. And if you'd be so kind to just do a quick introduction for yourself and Collaboration Junkie, Dave, and then we can get moving.
Yeah, cool. All right. Hi, for those of you that I've not met before, I'm Dave Plunkett from Collaboration Junkie. My main job is looking after my three kids, who are almost pretty much 10, 8, and 2, my wonderful wife, Kelly. But at Collaboration Junkie, we help brands identify, nurture, and scale referral and partnership opportunities. And I've got a background in networking and membership, worked for the Chamber of Commerce, then grew my own membership organization up to a couple of thousand members, but largely through referrals and partnerships. So this whole piece is very much within my space.
Absolutely. And having been through your course, Dave, I can personally vouch for the impact it had on my business and the change in my viewpoint. And this isn't about patting on the back. It's showing that you know your stuff inside and out. And like it's fantastic to have somebody on the show that I don't come across many people that really understand networking all that well. I see a lot of people who play at networking, a lot of people that are interested in networking, and a lot of confusion about what networking actually is. So I guess before we get any further into things, when we talk about referrals, what do we actually mean, Dave?
Yeah, and so for me, there's varying degrees that we've heard of product staircases. I think there's referral staircases as well, right? Because on one end, you've got people sharing your content and just saying good things about you, which is great, more like a recommendation. For me, a really high quality referral is a warm contextualized introduction from one person to another. But this whole fortune is in the follow-up piece, I think goes broader than that, because actually the key to getting referrals is actually building really strong relationships and properly connecting with people. And that's where the fortune's in the follow-up comes from. The fortune is maybe the end goal. It might be a referral, could be direct business, but the start of the fortune, the start of the riches is in building genuine relationships with people that you connect properly with. And that stuff takes time, but it's worth it. And I would say if you're not doing it well, spend less time getting more connections and spend more time cultivating the ones that you've got, right? The going around and being busy is the fun, easy part, right? But actually the real value and the real connection comes from leveraging and adding value and connecting properly with those people that you're meeting.
Perfect. And just before we move on, just a quick hello to Caroline. Hi, Caroline. Thanks for joining us. And Warren as well from Web3 Capital of the World. Hi, Warren. Good to see you both there. Thank you very much for joining us. And do, as we're chatting through the conversation points, feel free to chip in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Before we move on, Phil, I know that the bad follow-ups are something of a bugbear for you. So do you want to walk us through a couple of examples that other people might really empathize with, where you've seen it done really badly or just not at all, and the impact of not doing it well from your perspective?
So first of all is the follow-up that hits you within 30 seconds if you get in the first message. You know that it's automated and it's been set up badly and it's bordering on a one-liner. It's not nice, it's not pleasant, and you lose any trust with the person that you're talking to, because you know you're just part of a big machine that's had no love given to it in the first place. So that's one of them. And then there's the aggressive. The why didn't you give me this? Why didn't you come back to me? You must come back to me. I am the center of everybody's universe type message. And actual fact, Paul, pretty certain we had this conversation this week already because of a message you got as part of a follow-up. And it's like, yeah, no, seriously, chill.
Yeah.
The lack of humanity and the lack of personality screams through in these types of follow-ups. And then the worst one is the forgotten. 3 years later, whoops, we didn't follow up with that person. Well, it was dead. It's been dead for a while. And unless you can pull off something uber special, you're not going to breathe life back into that.
I've been guilty of that. I'm not going to lie. I have let things drop through the cracks.
We've all done it, but there's ways around it, and I'm sure Dave will tell us how. To reinvigorate things that might have slipped.
You know what, Phil, there is, and it comes back to something else you said. You talked about the lack of humanity. If you come across someone, you're like, oh my God, I'm sure I spoke to them before, and you've dropped the ball, then it's you reignite that with personality.
Yeah.
Right? You're honest, you're human, and you go back and if you get, and also with no expectation. So if the person blanks you, you go, yeah, that's well within their rights because I ballsed up in the first place. And I've never had this. If they come back shittily, then you go, well, I'll probably dodge the bullet anyway because you're a bit of a dick and I don't want you as a client. Or they come back and go, oh, no worries, we've moved on. Or, yeah, you know what, let's have a chat, right? But it comes back to that human piece, right? It comes back to, and whether you automate some of your follow-ups or not, I heard a great turn of phrase the other day that AI is great for weaponizing shit. Right? And it's those exact messages that you're talking about, Phil. But as long as you automations and things like that, as long as we've lost Phil.
He'll be back. It's all right. It's all good. He'll be back.
I think as long as you're, the key thing is about being human, right? Yeah. And if you're looking to lots of outbound or you're looking to engage en masse with your audience, right, fine, use tools, but just be personal.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's around, if you're going to do any amount of large scale outbound, right, consider whether it's the right thing to do first of all, and whether you can do that well. Like, it's got to be pretty targeted to do it on any sort of scale. But right, assume that you've done a successful outbound campaign that didn't piss everybody off and came across well, which some people can do that, right? It's possible. It is doable in the right way. Consider what happens if you get a large response back, because you need to be able to deal with those people. You can't auto respond to those responses. You need to be able to deal with those one by one. And it's the same with people who are networking, which leads in nicely to where we're going to go with this next, Dave, is You know, I see people go into a networking event, whether it's digital, online, whether it's in person, wherever, and they're busy collecting business cards of some sort. All these people, I'm going to connect with them all on LinkedIn, I'm going to send them all a message. Right, then what? What's your plan? Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to cause yourself some problems.
Yep.
So Dave, you know, you talk about spending time on the follow-up. Go well. What's your experience with that?
So the plan's a really interesting one, Paul, because I don't think, because you are going to pick up people along the way that you connect with, but you're not putting them into some kind of funnel, however loose it is, right? Because there is, but there are other people you meet who are going to be more within your target market, right? And so that's what I would say is why you should follow up. Everyone you've had a proper conversation with, you should follow up with. There are levels to how continuous that follow up with, depending on where they sit within your own business's kind of ecosystem. But that first initial bit of time is good, and actually doing it, which is kind of Phil alluded to as well. So the business card collection one's an interesting one. Had a day of face-to-face last week at a conference and then an event. And very few people had cards, so everyone was doing the LinkedIn thing where you kind of, if you haven't seen it, tap on your in the top bar on your phone and you get a little QR code. I always, if someone wants to do that, I always get them to scan me, because then I don't accept their connection request until I'm sat down at my desk and can actually send them a, hey, great to meet you. Because otherwise you're just collecting LinkedIn connections with absolutely no intent, just no way of doing anything else, right? The one thing about a card that I love about cards is you're more likely to remember because they're there. And I used to scribble. I'll scribble on a card the thing that I'm going to do for the person. So for me, the follow-up is, if it's the LinkedIn one, I'll accept it and I might send them a message, a video message. That's always a nice extra one. And I get comments a lot about that. Like, oh, nice, sent me a message, right? But actually I can do it when I'm out walking the dog or stuff. It's more, and then actually, but make sure you do something of value. I think that's the thing with these follow-ups, is do something of value. I run free webinars, so I normally almost always will drop a free webinar link in, but it will be the side thing. It won't be great to meet you, come to my webinar. It'll be great to meet you. There'll be a personal combo bit. If there's something else I said I was going to do, like introduce them to someone, recommend another event, just something of value, then I'll do that. And then there'll be a, by the way, if you were interested in what I do, here's this free thing there's no pressure to come along. And I think it's that making sure you add value. And then those that you think, you know what, there might be something to be done here, make a note to get in touch with them if they haven't kind of come back to you, which is where CRM and all that stuff comes in. So that's kind of my loose piece, but that does take time, right? Like for everyone you meet, you're dropping them a very quick 30-second video and putting something on. Still probably takes 2 or 3 minutes per person, right? So
yeah, I think the important thing from my side of things, my experience with it is, to your point, Dave, pretty much everybody gets put into my CRM. I don't use it as a real CRM a lot of the time. I use it as a relationship management device. And it'll give me the option, like not everybody gets a deal created for them or an opportunity created for them. They're just a person going into the CRM that I can set tasks against. So I remember, because I do a lot of networking and it's hard to keep up. But I actually find that the people who do keep up, it sets a standard and it gets recognized by the people that you're following up with, because you start to do what you said you would, when you said you would, how you said you would. You're showing up consistently. And if that's how you are as a networker, imagine what they're like to do business with. And that's the point of it all. And the other beauty of that is, for me, is you can also put notes in your CRM to say, do you know what, I met this person here. Here's my initial thoughts on them. Here's where I think it might go. So that when you have that meeting in 3 weeks' time, you can have a look at it and you instantly know where they are. And I think that's something that you're quite big on as well, Dave, is kind of not just when you send the referrals as themselves, but like knowing where that relationship's at when you have the conversations, because it sets the tone for the professionalism of that conversation. Oh, we met here, or we met there, or is that you? Phil's got post.
I don't know if that was the dog agreeing or disagreeing with what you said, Paul. I don't know.
Just doing networking downstairs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think lengthening that out in terms of people. There are people that you have a meeting with and there's not anything immediate. And again, the fortune being in the follow-up is the keep in touch piece. There are people where there's nothing right now, but it's still worth dropping it in. I had it yesterday. There's a chap that I'll give him a shout out, a chap called Kevin Appleby from Growth CFO. And we've done a little bit of stuff together. I've been on his brilliant podcast and we've had a few meetings. Never quite been right for us to do stuff, but he was on my list to like every 6 months, just give a quick call to. And I was at this train station yesterday, looked at my CRM on my phone, was like, oh yeah, great, I'll give Cameron a call. And he was like, oh Dave, you've been on my mind to give a call actually. And actually it was only a brief 5-minute call, but there is now potentially something to come out of it that's a bit more concrete than there was before, right? And that's just because I had a note to just go, because we forget. I would have forgotten to speak to Kevin until maybe I saw something of his pop up on LinkedIn or whatever. And I think it's about the nice thing about having a CRM or to have a spreadsheet you use in a CRM that you don't, but some kind of system. It's just about reminding us to do the things that we'd like to do anyway. It's not like, oh, everyone's got to be in a process. It's just remembering to do the nice bits, right?
Exactly that. So I guess tying you and Phil together. So Phil's obviously our resident marketing expert. He's a big fan of email marketing and he's a big data advocate. Tying together what you guys both do. Phil, I know you've got a lot of questions coming to you about, we've had an email marketing campaign. We've had somebody indicate their interest in some way, shape or form. When's it cool to follow up with them in that regard? Like, how many days do you leave it? How do you follow up with them?
I mean, from our side, if somebody's engaged, you need to be following up quickly, like fast, because you need to keep the conversation going. If somebody's shown some vague sort of interest, then 24 hours, because they're still hot, but they're not as much of a priority as the ones that are actively conversing and actively engaging. The ones where there's like, yeah, they've shown some vague interest, but this all very much depends on what your end goal is with that type of, that part of the campaign. Your focus really needs to be on that top, the sort of like the hot people.
Yeah. Dave, your experience the same?
Yeah, so I don't tend to do big email outbound campaign, but my one, and I'll come on to referral follow-ups because I think they're a bit unique, but it does link too. On the general sales stuff, and I'm no sales expert, but something that I do always have done and tends to work is if there's someone that's kind of been conversing, but then they've gone a bit cold, for me, there's only so many times that you chase, right? And I'll have a process where I send an email, then there might be another one after a week. And if I stick to it, it'll be another couple of weeks. And then the final one will be a very much, Ray, hey, Phil, look, I don't want to be that guy anymore, right? So I'm going to leave the ball in your court because I appreciate this. Just made whatever's happened and it's not top of your list anymore. I'll drop you onto my newsletter list. You can obviously unscroll at any time or whatever. And whenever you're ready, you know where I am. And that kind of, it's not me, it's you, but like it's all good thing. That gets so many responses because people either feel guilty they've not gone back to you, or they do need to. They're like, no, actually, I do need this thing, right? And it's that having the confidence to walk away, but doing it in a polite manner, not like the aggressive, dickish messages you talked about that as we kicked off on LinkedIn, right? Doing it in a polite, look, I don't want to chase you, but also it's, I don't want that headspace. Oh, are they going to go ahead or not? You go, I can get rid of that one now. Because I always say, I'd rather have a no than not knowing. Like a no is way better than not knowing, right?
Yeah.
You can move on. And so I think there's that polite way to kind of go, right, that's that. And then, put them into a newsletter list or if you really thought there was something there, like a quarterly or a 6 monthly check-in, but move on, right?
You've actually
this is
given
where
me a really good
long-term
idea there,
nurture comes
Dave.
in as well.
Sorry?
I was to say this is where long-term nurture sequences come in as well.
Yeah.
So yes, some people will just do long-term nurture as something that's very manual. It's the, hey, look, you're in the list. You're going to get the newsletter once a month. Okay, fine. But actually, others will set up a proper dedicated long-term nurture where you're adding and building value on every single one. So then you might end up getting 2 touch points a month that are essentially marketing touch points, but you're actively engaged in those ones. And then you can also see from that who's not. And then you start seeing, well, they were not right in the first place because they don't open their emails.
Yeah, and actually, Phil,
that's
you made a really good point the other day about resending with a different title sometimes on your newsletter, just to test whether people just didn't engage with the title of the original newsletter, and you can resend it once just to see whether the other people who didn't open it the first time pick up the second time. I think that's a really valid strategy. It's another way of following up.
It's time of day of week as well, because and so one of the things, so this is very much B2C world, but one of the key times that we could send a campaign was 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning for the companies I worked for, which seems like a really bad time to send it. Turns out for that particular audience, it was amazing. It had the best open rates, had the best click-throughs, it had the best conversions as well, because it was aimed at parents standing around a football field watching little Johnny get covered in mud and be particularly bad at football. But it's for day camps for school holidays. So they're sat there doing their life admin while pretending that they're watching a offspring. But it worked. And it worked wonderfully. And then the resend would go out on a Tuesday evening at about 7 o'clock at night. Again, once little Johnny's in bed and it's time to sit down and do life admin.
And I think I'd agree entirely on speed of follow-up as well. Like, if there's a clear indication of interest, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot. People don't, and like most people who are doing outreach assume that it's inappropriate to message people on a weekend, right? I sometimes get people connect on a Sunday dinner time onwards, Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoons are great for catching very senior people because they're generally sat at their laptop planning their week ahead, clearing their email list down so that when they get in on Monday morning, they're not behind, they're ahead of the curve and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get those people connecting with me on LinkedIn and going, do you know what? Yeah, absolutely, we should chat. And the few times I've left that 4 or 5 hours before replying, I've then missed them on the Sunday. They've gone off and done other things. Monday morning comes along, their brain's in another tangent and you're getting forgotten about. So I'd say if there's a clear expression of interest, the quicker you can respond professionally, the better. And
what
I've
do you
had some
do on
really,
your
really good business generated from a Sunday afternoon. 100%.
What do you do on your LinkedIn connection follow-ups, Paul? So for me, whenever someone connects with me on LinkedIn, if I know why they've connected, because they've listened to a talk I've done or something like that, then fine, I'll reference that. And then I've got one of two things. I've either got, if I look at them and I think I've got a flavour for what it is, then I'll reference that. But I've got a standard thing that anyone who connects with me comes back saying, asking why and how they heard about me, if there's anything I can do to help. And then on the subject of helping, here's my next webinar you might find of interest. Give me a shout, right? And then I'll just tailor. If I think there's a reason why they've connected me, but I don't know, I'll tailor it. Well, we've got a load of connections in that space, and I've had real opportunities come from that, from being bothered to find out why someone's connected with you. Like really good, some really good stuff that's come. And I think, and I'm not sure it would have come if I hadn't been proactive about following up with the person that connected with me.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I probably don't do as much of that as I could. What I would say is where I tend to have a look at who's connected with me, and if I don't recognize why they've connected with me, because usually it's me outbound, like proactively connecting with people who I think look like a good fit. But I'm content generating, right? So for me, I don't really want to make a sales pitch into their inbox. I don't really want to create that first contact there in the inbox. I want them to come and see my content. So generally, I leave people alone who connect with me. But if I don't recognize why they've connected with me, I tend to look at mutual connections, because there's a, you know, if you come across somebody who's got 400 mutual connections, well, yeah, they're a very active networker in your industry, probably worth having a coffee with them, etc. But sometimes I'll come across people who have maybe 20 or 30 mutual connections, and some of those mutual connections I know don't connect with people unless they've got very good reasons. Now, if I'm comfortable with who those people are, it speaks volumes about the person who's connected with me. Therefore, that's a really good way of going, look, I can see you're connected with this person, this person, this person. I know they take their networking very seriously. We should chat, because I also get on very well with them. And it's a really good door opener. But I think, yeah, I guess it depends. For me, I kind of class my video content as being my follow-up strategy. So if they've connected with me, I kind of leave it to the content to do a lot of the, here's who I am, this is what I'm about, this is why I do what I do. But to your point, Dave, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. I think you could quite easily combine the two without annoying people. There's a way and means of doing it, right?
Yeah, mine's not outbound, so mine's purely on inbound, right? That I do that because they're connecting for a reason. And I'm asking them why, and I'm like, well, I'm here, I may as well sling the link in. And I would say half the people book straight onto a webinar kind of thing. Oh, thanks for that, really interested. I'm like, they connect with me. There isn't many people that do what I do as well, though, right? So it is a bit easier for me. They're like, oh, not many people do referral and partnership strategies, so it's not. Oh no, not another one of those. So yeah.
I think
I want to do. I'm aware of time. I want to do referral follow up if that's okay, Paul and Phil. If you've got no objections, because one of the things I talk about when I'm Phil, Paul, you've done my partnership program, and Phil, you've done my referral program. And one of the things that I always say about, like, so people get icky about asking for referrals, right? And then there's a point further on, and we sort that out. But then there's a point of, if someone has said they're going to make an introduction for you, you should treat that like a sales lead, right? So this isn't, oh yeah, I'll put my mind to it, right? If someone is, it's still worth following up with those people. But if someone has said, oh yeah, I know someone, absolutely, you should treat that like a sales lead. You should put a follow-up in your CRM or your spreadsheet or your whiteboard or whatever it is you're using to go back to Phil a week later and go, hey, Phil, I know you said that you were going to introduce me to Paul. Anything I can do to help? And because typically the person that said they've made it would make an introduction for you, they haven't suddenly decided they don't like you and don't want to do it. They've probably just forgotten. Now, it could be that the timing isn't right, in which case Phil comes back and goes, oh, no, I haven't forgotten, Dave. It's just I know Paul's away on holiday for the next 2 weeks, so it probably makes sense to wait, or this is happening, or that's happening. But genuinely put it in, because Phil will want to be remembered because he wanted to do the nice thing for me. People get really nervous about being pushy about this. I had someone that was on an early incarnation of my Better Referrals More Often program. And she's in fact, she won't mind me saying her name, Sarah Sully. She's a personal trainer, and she was full of ick about asking. And then we got over a bit of that. And then we got to the bit about following up. She was like, oh, no way. I've only just got the confidence to ask. I'm not going to do that. She didn't kind of believe the bit around people who appreciate it. At the end of the program, she said to me she had a referral for me. I was like, great. She didn't make the referral. So I sent her a message going, hey, Sarah, anything I could do to help? And she went, oh, my God, thank you so much for reminding me. I just completely forgotten. And I was like, and there you go. That's why you should do it, because you didn't mind it. You actually really appreciated it. So I would absolutely say, if someone said they're going to make an introduction for you, they mean it. Put it in as a follow-up. The best thing you can possibly do if that feels icky for you is get permission to nudge. So when I ask Phil for an introduction and he says yes, I say, thanks, Phil. That's awesome. If I haven't heard from you and Paul in like a week's time, is that all right to give you a nudge? And Phil goes, oh, no, make it 2 because I know he's away or whatever. But like, if you get permission to nudge in advance, it just makes that whole follow-up process so much easier.
Yep. I think that's really valid. It's something that I can understand why people are a bit squirmy about it. I do understand it.
Yeah.
But once you've done it a couple of times, you realise that actually you're just helping people. Like sometimes you've got to be organised on other people's behalf.
Yeah, help people to
That's,
help
you
you.
know,
Help
yeah,
the people that want to help you. Help them to help you. Right. That's all it is.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
once an introduction's been made, I have a fairly set process down, which really lines in nicely with some of Phil's stuff. I'd be interested in your feedback on this, Phil. So I will jump on an introduction. Someone's made the effort to do it, so you can't always do it you can't always do it immediately, but certainly within the 24 hours, I'll try and jump on an intro. BCC the person that made the original introduction, so that they're not involved in the chain. Honestly, when people do that to me, BCC me after I made an intro, I do a little happy dance because it's just a nice etiquette. I'll put a chase in after a week if the person hasn't got back to me. The referred person hasn't booked something in. I'll then give it another week, maybe check in with the original introducer, and then finally I'll do the same. It's not me, it's you, kind of. You know where I am, and I'll copy in the original introducer so that they know I've tried. But that's the same as what you should do with any kind of sales-based thing, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what for me, once we get past that last one, I'll give them a manual touch every now and again.
Yeah.
Once in a blue moon, just sort of remind them. In actual fact, one came off the back of that about 6 weeks ago. We'd actually run We Weren't Right For You campaign on some really old data. Going back 2.5, well, I say really old, it's 2.5 years, so it depends on how you deem really old. But in our case, that's really old. And they came back, oh, no, we need your help. So, result.
Yeah. You just never know, right?
You never know. Yeah, you never know when somebody will just know something or know somebody or need you. Because actually, following up on the referral side of things nudges people that you are still there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the final bit,
don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, because sometimes that is what breaks it. Yes, you're interrupting someone, but you're interrupting them for a good reason. And actually, I did that the other day, Phil. Like we were having a conversation about somebody who'd said yes and they'd gone quiet, they disappeared, not answering emails or LinkedIn messages, and it's been 6 weeks, 8 weeks since we last spoke to them, and I just picked up the phone, called him, and he went, "Oh yeah, sorry about that. Like, yeah, I've been manic on this side, and I'll absolutely get it sorted." I mean, we're still not there yet, but we, we've confirmed that they're still interested, they still want to do it. So, and
it's another topic
to your point, Dave, he was thankful.
Yeah, and it's another topic for another time on why you should use the phone. But your thing around you're interrupting someone, you're probably interrupting them doing something they shouldn't be doing anyway. Like, because if they're in deep work, they're not answering their phone.
Did not answer.
Right?
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? They're not answering their phone. My final thing on follow-ups, by the way, and it's a crucial one, specifically on referrals, is don't forget to follow up the person who made the referral. You two have both heard me say this multiple times. Every time someone makes an introduction to you, they are not just giving you a lead, they are giving you a little bit of their reputation. And it's up to you to treat that with the respect it deserves. So follow up with the people that made the introduction. Let them know how it's gone, how it's going. Even if it doesn't turn out successful, you still say thank you. Like that's the trick to getting continuous introductions. And if it didn't work out because the referral wasn't quite right, politely educate them on that. All right, yeah, thanks, Phil. I spoke to Paul. He's not quite the right stage of his business for now because of this. Actually, really looking at businesses that are at this point. Saying thank you to Phil gets me another referral. Educating him means I'm more likely to get the right one the next time around.
Absolutely. And then just to thank everyone who's in the comments, who's been following along with us. I mean, not so much questions, but some nice positive comments.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark's a big fan. Wow. We've had. I'm not sure why it's not come. I assume it's something to do with privacy settings. Can you recommend an easy to use CRM? I know Dave uses Capsule. Yeah. Phil, you recommend many different CRMs to many different people for various reasons. I prefer Pipedrive, but again, I'd say it very much depends. CRMs is a whole different topic altogether, and I'm not going to dive into it now. Happy to pick up a chat offline around the webinar. What I'd say is think about what's right for your business first and foremost, because that's what you're going to primarily use it for. Get a CRM that's right, get somebody who knows about CRMs to help you with that, and then use whatever that is for your networking as well. cordon a part of that off for your own networking. Zoho is pretty easy to use. Yeah, I think that's a matter of opinion. I've used Zoho, but I've only used the free version. There's lots of different iterations of that as well. And then just to leave on this point from James is, being personally in the reply, it also helps you tell who's real and who's not in this day and age of AI and chatbots and sales bots and marketing bots. And it was just Transformers when I was a kid. It was all nice and easy. You were either Autobots or Decepticons.
Right.
Now we've got all sorts.
Me.
Oh, that's not a bot.
No, I told you it was Thunderbirds.
But I do know what
Look,
FAB
here we go.
stands
Here we
for.
go. I have a Lego Optimus Prime. If you're going down that route,
Okay.
Paul, there you go.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
What is this
Now I'm under
descended
pressure.
into?
Now
What
I'm
is this
under
descended
pressure.
into, gentlemen?
I have James
Oh,
Bond
nice.
collectible 007 with Odd Job.
Oh, nice. My
there we
kids have
go.
got hold of mine. So the person that goes out right, this is now descended into 80s memorabilia. Like
It's chaos. It's chaos. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your
What can I
time.
bring out that's not just Lego because that's too predictable.
Thanks very much for your time. And as a thought, in the comments, drop below. Send us a photo of something that surrounds you at your desk. We'd love to see what everybody's got. Let's have a chat in the comments. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Dave, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Also, Dave's got some webinars coming up. Dave, drop them in the comments for everyone, please. If you'd like to know more about referrals and strategies, have a look in the comments. You
Legend. Cheers, guys.
you won't fall foul of that. All right, thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today for the webinar. Hope you've enjoyed what we've had to talk about and you've got plenty of takeaways from what's been discussed. If you're a busy business owner who's sick of saying that they want to do more of their own marketing but just don't know where to start, reach out and contact us at Marketing Help Desk. We're designed to help provide bite-sized support to leaders and founders just like you who just want to get more of their own marketing done without making so many mistakes. Bit of strategy, planning, and some accountability. We're there to support you with all of that at a price that won't break the bank and no obligations unless you want them. Reach out, Paul at marketing-helpdesk.com. Look forward to hearing from you and we'll speak soon.